Hello, my name's Frank Castillo. Welcome to Silly Guys. This is Ian McCall. Oh, no, I did introduce the show. I was just really stoned last time.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh, anyways.
I remember that far back.
Would you like to introduce today's guest?
Sure. Today on the show, we have my dear friend and the mycologist MacGyver, James McConchie of the Haight Street Shroom Shoppe. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming, man. Let's put this just a little bit closer to you.
A little bit closer so you can hear the
Yes.
Damn. By the way, you got a fucking creamy-ass voice, dog. It's very, like,
Yes.
you got, like, smooth nighttime radio voice.
Yeah, all the fam on Clubhouse apparently loves it. So they all want to hang out with James and talk about mushrooms all day.
Oh, really?
He reads me books to sleep sometimes.
I mean, I don't blame you, man. How long have you had that beautiful voice?
Well, I think it really developed when probably about like 15, 20 years ago to the depth that it's at when I started yelling a lot at wrestling matches. as
Oh,
a
really?
wrestling coach, yeah.
Oh, are you also a wrestling coach?
I certainly am.
Holy shit! Why it's so funny. Like everyone that does mushrooms is also everyone that could just choke you out.
Because people that are as dangerous as us, we
Need to chill.
chill the fuck out. Yeah, we need to be open enough to not only deal with our traumas and stuff, but also be able to open to read people's energy.
Mm-hmm.
I keep finding how intimidating people find me, and it's weird. And I really try and break that down with the way I dress sometimes, or just whatever. And it's part of it.
Yeah, tall guy walking in a room, always sized up, man.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like, there's nothing you can do about it.
You're like, I gotta wear like 10 mushroom T-shirts just for people to be like, yeah, okay, maybe I won't.
The more hippie I look, the happier people seem to be around
That's
me.
hysterical.
And then I just like get them on the mat.
Yeah.
Really
They're like, oh my
good.
god, this is exactly like a mushroom trip. I'm like, I didn't expect to hit me so hard.
Yeah, and it's the flow state, baby. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's like trying to get into that flow state. I feel like mushrooms and wrestling, and when you're really in depth with your wrestling, and they kind of go hand in hand. So
Yeah, I used to. I wrestled not to the extent either of you have. For like 2 years out of high school, I did jiu-jitsu, and that was like my favorite time. But I never did it on mushrooms. I did smoke a lot of weed and do it. But that seems like a whole nother level.
Yeah, that body awareness. You know, both of us have a vast understanding of microdosing or what I call a performance dose, which could be anywhere from 0.5 gram to 2 grams. That's where, you know, when you're a true psychonaut, that's a true athlete, that's where you're like, oh, cool. I can take a little bit of microdose here, 0.2, or whatever your microdose could be, throughout your daily practice, your whenever you can add it in as that sort of supplement for that day. But then for an actual performance, for a match, or for something where you have to go up and perform, I mean, I would take it for at least 1 gram.
yeah.
You would take mushrooms to actually do like.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we can't. It's been one of those things for some of us that are in this space. You know, we obviously haven't had the opportunity to really talk about it, but I've definitely had competition over the past few years since I've done work where I've gone out. And I will say that I think it's more humorous than anything, because in the end, I don't care if I win or lose. I kind of just have fun a lot more.
Yeah.
And if I can get into the flow, once I'm in the flow, that is where I want to be. So
Yeah.
whatever the outcome is doesn't really matter to me. It's more about reaching into that dance and getting into the flow state with my opponent. And if they can keep me moving, then I get really amped and excited, and it just makes the experience so worth every moment, win or lose.
Yeah. And do you think getting to that point where you're like, oh, I don't care if I win or lose, I'm just here to like have fun in that flow state, that's what ultimately leads to more wins in a sense, because you're just like in the moment?
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of us that have done competition, especially in like wrestling and any martial arts sport, that have done it to an extensive point where you've done more than like 10 or 15 years, the aspect of the drive from your youth is usually like to always get your hand raised, to always get that win. And I noticed for me as a young guy, when I was going through wrestling in college like that, I just kept driving. But the more I drove towards these goals that were attainable and unattainable, I just found myself kind of coming short of what I was really looking for, which was that dance, like trying to feel like I could flow at my whim. And then when I get into that flow state, I think that's the mind state a lot of people are looking to try and reach when they consume psychedelics, like on a microdosing, macrodosing, or spiritual format.
Yeah, absolutely. That like space, that moment in time in the match where it's just the match, it's flowing.
Yeah.
That's interesting hearing that, because it really because when I think in a stand-up sense is like there's nothing that I enjoy more than just the set, which is it's not being upstage reciting material. It's just being in the moment, on stage, present in front of the people, trying to make them laugh. And that's the thing that I love, where it's just the trying to make them laugh. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now,
it's in the journey, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
it is
in
the
it's
journey.
not in the outcome. It's what you did to get to the point where you get to try that aspect. And for a lot of like when I coach youth, I try to make them laugh, because there's so much anxiety about engagement, right?
Yeah.
And even in social engagement now, like when we look at society with the way social media is and our youth is engaging with each other, like just the level of anxiety that I see about trying to get a young boy or girl, like at this point, because wrestling is across the genders now, just trying to get them to like even go after their opponent and engage them. And that whole process is like almost a whole year of just like getting them to go and after them. But once they get past that, there's this huge progression for them in their lives. And I think when you're taking psychedelics, it's that type of progression we're looking for, and it's a great tool to help you like jumpstart into that mindset really quickly.
Yeah. Psychedelics really, I started noticing, is starting to really help. Like, I'm trying to get my father to do a lot more psychedelics, because he's always kind of had like a drinking problem his whole life, and he's always like on and off with it and stuff. So it's to see the research with psychedelics and how that's applied to like people with drinking problems, like that's something that I'm like actively trying to get my dad to do.
That's a really good point. I made the joke to Ian earlier. It's like my mom, who's 74, has been bugging me for the past like 5 months to give her microdoses.
Yeah.
And I finally made it to the point of Christmas where I managed to get some microdoses for my mom and my dad too, because I think both of them, when they reach that age, you start to see your parents slowing down.
Yeah.
And those neurotropic and adaptogenic effects of like medicinal and therapeutic mushrooms are like stuff we should be like putting to everybody, not just us in the middle.
I see from whether it's my parents, my brother. Oh my God, my brother's relationship with us, with his kids, with everything has changed dramatically. His kids, I just give mushrooms. I'm like, here, yeah, don't sell them, just eat them. Like, fucking come back and get whatever you need. My parents, my fiance's, her autistic 24-year-old kid. The microdosing, it's not about big dose, it's about sub-perceptual dosing. And to see the difference it makes in every single person for the positive is insane. And it's like, it's so beautiful to see. And to be able to see, like, look, this is what it does for someone who has autism. This is what it does for someone who has agoraphobia. This is what it has for, and it helps everybody. And then even the people that aren't afflicted with certain things like that, it makes their day better. It makes them interact better. It makes them treat people better. It's like it's such a beautiful effect it has on the entire vibration of everything.
How long have you been on this like mushroom journey?
So about 5 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer, and I was kind of turned on to the research of Paul Stamets and his work with turkey tail mushrooms. It turns out that her breast cancer diagnosis was the same as his mother's, which is where his TED Talk from about 10 years ago kind of sparked the ignition revolving around mushrooms as medicine in the Western world. So I saw that when she had the same. I said, hey, let's do this. So after a year of buying really expensive supplements, in addition to all the other holistic stuff we were doing on top of her Western treatment, the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy, I just kind of started researching more about mushrooms, and I was like, wait a minute, I can find these in Golden Gate Park, like a block from where I am. And sure enough, within like a couple days of research and finding, I found them right there, and kicked myself in the butt that I could have literally gone out into like 2 blocks from my house and picked them when I had been paying $60+ for like 2 bottles, or $120 for like 2 bottles at a time, just to make sure that my wife was getting the dosage that was recommended for that Paul Stamets' mother took. So that spurred it. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, aren't these easy to grow? And then that kind of got me in the whole mindset of learning mycology. And when my wife went post-treatment, right, you have this year of like waiting where you have to kind of see if there's going to be a recurrence of cancer. And in that time frame, I had like a super high-end tech job. I was like on my way to like, a C-level job. I was super stressed out. I had a baby, I had a 1-year-old baby, and I was just not losing it. And I was coaching wrestling too, which was just made it even
a lot
more
on your
intense.
plate.
Yeah. And so my wife had been a candidate for the Johns Hopkins study because she wasn't going through cancer treatment. And I found out about it, and I kind of looked at her jokingly and said, "Hey, babe, look, you're taking these mushrooms. Why don't you try these mushrooms too, right?" And she kind of gave me the side eye because, in reality, like her meditation and yoga practice and stuff has always given her personal balance. But that research is what kind of turned me back around because, most of us, like a lot of us that are in this space now, we all started taking mushrooms recreationally.
Yeah.
And I'm, as we sit here and we talk about this, right, like I want to just lay it out there. Like I'm 110% about the medical side of this and the ceremonial side and paying, tribute to all the correct groups. But I'm also about recreational mushrooms because we all know it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So if we can figure out safe ways to let people have a good time with mushrooms, then damn it, I'm all for it, man.
Well, let's talk about this new bill. Because obviously you're the guy with the Haight Street Shroom Shoppe. You're up there. You talked to Senator Weiner.
Is that his real name?
Weiner?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It goes back and forth. Some people say Weiner, some people say Weiner.
Also, like, how it's got to be so tough to have like a serious conversation with that guy.
Yeah, it's fun though. He's a really cool guy.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, he is cool.
I mean, his name is Weiner.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, the guy's been dealing with it his whole life.
Exactly. He was like, no, Mr. Weiner's my dad.
Yeah.
To give context, these are the senators the senator that is putting it into motion to make drugs decriminalized in California.
Correct.
And you work very closely with this person. It's
that's right. Yeah, he's my state senator up in San Francisco, and I'm also working with the DA's office in San Francisco with my district supervisor and also the Decriminalize Nature platform, which is a national level platform that is using a grassroots movement to try and work with local authorities to decriminalize locally first. And it's been crazy successful.
Beautiful.
Wow.
I mean, they're the ones who are doing it in all the cities.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's crazy. I was working for the Decrim California campaign, and didn't end up working, but it's just showed like there's a lot of movements out there, but the biggest one is Decrim Nature, and they're killing it. I mean, can you explain a little further into how it would all work?
Sure. So they have a platform, and they use the legislation that they submitted as a framework for any local legislation, any local group that wants to try and submit legislation. They also have a couple different community initiatives that are working to try and create local programs for smaller businesses or kind of community development first before they actually allow bigger companies to come in with investment money and stuff like that. And that's going to be local, right? So each of the different localities can decide to be a part of that type of initiative. But I know Oakland is pushing really hard for that because they're, the real launch point for all entheogens. So Decrim Nature's platform focuses on all entheogens, right? So any plant medicine that has tryptamines or psychedelic properties.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's much broader. So and I'll be honest, as a mushroom guy, when I first heard about it, I kind of gritted my teeth and said, "Ooh, we're really gonna try and get peyote and and all these higher level in ayahuasca." I was a little anxious about it because those of us that have worked with some of these heavier plant medicines know that it takes a lot of work to get through working with them. Right, so I was a little anxious that all of a sudden, Mother Aya might be available to some dude on the street in Oakland. Hey, we got shots of ayahuasca here. You know?
It's dangerous.
Right, right.
And people fucking tripping hard in the streets.
Oh man, I mean, you hear the funny stories about, right? So I think there's one that happened down here in LA where somebody was holding space and they weren't experienced enough, and next thing you know, somebody's buck naked running down Sunset here. I mean. Things like that are going to happen, but the key...
I mean, if that's the case, everyone's on ayahuasca right now.
What we were seeing when we were walking in here, I would agree with that for sure. Oh my God! But in reality, what it is it's this great framework that's allowing the discussion to be started with local authorities, right? That's the key here, right? We're sitting here and we're joking and we're laughing. But us having this discussion and just sitting here and joking about it is really the onset of how we launch this, right?
Absolutely.
And we should be able to have fun. We should be able to joke about it, and we should make sure that everybody understands that we're going to take the medical side seriously, and we're going to take the ceremonial aspects seriously too.
Yeah. Don't let the shirt fool you.
Where's Weiner taking it?
Well, he's the guy.
Big fan of the mushroom
yeah,
tips.
I mean,
all right, I'm done.
We should make a Weiner for president.
Oh my God, I can already see a little mushroom cap that says "Weiner for president."
Yeah.
A little mushroom. I'm
It's
in
just
line.
got arms on it, and it's like
Yeah,
this.
a little like shoot at you. Yeah, I'm already making it.
Perfect.
I'm doing it just because
Absolutely.
you guys have you've spurred that idea, and I can't wait to go see him with it. But what he's done is he's actually gone a step further, right?
Okay.
He's gone way deeper into psychedelics, and I gotta say, I love California, right? Oregon, I love you too. All right, I love you, Oregon.
California's better.
Let's not get too harsh on them, all right?
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Whoa.
But
West Coast, you know?
I'll
Mhm.
give credit where credit's due, right? Every single one of the states, Denver, even all the way over in Washington D.C., Ann Arbor, all these places that are starting the conversation. It's all due to you. And here in California, everybody looks at this state and the framework that's created revolving around cannabis, revolving around up and coming tech, any of these new industries. And so I want to just give credit to the senators and the legislators out there that do support this, because Senator Wiener hasn't just talked about entheogens. He's talking about LSD, MDMA, ketamine, everything across the board, and even decriminalizing all drugs.
Mhm.
So one of the things that's happening locally up in San Francisco is SB 57, which is a local piece of legislation to try and create safe injection sites.
Mhm.
And I'm advocating to change that word. Let's change it from safe injection sites to safe ingestion sites, so that all types of medicine, all types of drugs or things that people are working through have a safe place to go that has support systems available. That's what they want to do. Why are we calling it an injection? Everybody has a negative connotation with sticking a needle in your arm. But if we change the context of how we talk about these things, we can start helping people that are really, need the help that they need.
Yeah.
Hey, look at Vancouver, Dr. Gabor Mate. I mean,
Exactly.
They are changing the way people look at drug users and drug abusers, and how these people are just broken children. We're all broken children, and we all, these individuals have just gone through something that's driven them to do this. You can't get mad at the drug. You can't get mad at the drug addict. You have to go, okay, did that service you at that time? Yes. Okay, let's get down to the root of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely feels like there's a lot of Band-Aids being placed on tough subjects.
Yeah, and what's even worse about it is that you have a lot of like charlatans that are trying to jump into the scene right now that aren't necessarily educated. So that's the big fear that's going across the community, is that we don't have a framework yet, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say to all the listeners out there, anyone who's hanging out with us, please get yourself involved with your local advocacy group, whether it's just getting involved with your local psychedelic club or it's writing a letter to your state senator. You, my friends, are the future for all of us that are sitting here and having these
100%.
conversations.
And you start the conversation with your friends, your family, social media, because this is how we've changed so much over the last year. It's like me bringing a study to the UFC. I brought a psilocybin study with Johns Hopkins, FDA approval, all that stuff a little over a year ago. They had to turn me down because it was a Schedule I substance, U.S.-based company. I get it. It was just cool they let me in. But a year later, Dana White sees my HBO thing and then has them recontact me because, think how much has changed in 1 year.
It's amazing, right? Look at like right now the industry. If we're just going to talk industry stuff, they're looking at the cannabis industry, like Prop 215 here in California, the whole framework that was created like that. I'm sorry, my friends, you got to throw that out the door.
Oh yeah,
because that doesn't even exist no more,
No.
right? We're talking that was what 15 years of work from when Dennis Perone first got that passed to get to where we are with Prop 64, that all of us that are cannabis consumers and advocates for the mid-level and small farmers, we fucking hate it.
Yeah,
Oh, you don't want to pay $120 for an
Yeah,
eighth?
right? It's like,
It's
thank you,
such a joke.
California, for reopening up the black market and gray market again.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They ruined it from that standpoint. And again, everybody tries, all right? So
Yeah.
we're not saying that like it's the worst case scenario, but it
It's
could
fixable.
it could be a hell of a lot better. Right. And so my level of enthusiasm and excitement revolving around psilocybin entheogenic space is that, places like San Francisco, places like LA, now that we've developed this pretty good framework revolving around dispensaries, right, for cannabis, we have something to look at. And if we can figure that out in the right way, the way that access is made available to people will keep people safe. Right, if we have these safe ingestion sites, if we have good community education revolving around it, and we have places where people are allowed to take psilocybin and have fun, it's got to happen. And yeah,
It's going to happen either way. So why not control it, and the government can make some money off it? That's what all they're worried about. then yeah, we like the companies in the space and in cannabis, or the upcoming companies that are in psychedelics, they want to pay their taxes. They want to just be a legitimate business, you know, and they can't, because I mean, imagine we're just starting a psychedelic movement as far as companies and making money somewhat legally, kind of. So it's a weird area.
Gray, we'll call it the
But
gray.
where are you gonna
Traditional.
where are you gonna put the money? Again, no banks are gonna take your money.
Exactly.
Then you have people trying to wash money illegal ways, get in trouble. That it's like, dude, just take the money, government. Just let us pay it to you, and we'll be fine. You know, but it's never that easy.
Well, the thing that's interesting is, you know, the perception of cannabis, right, took so long to shift it to say, actually, yo, this is medicine. This isn't.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the same thing with psychedelics. However, it seems like the turn comes that a lot of the older people that are in these like control positions actually had some involvement with psychedelics when they were younger. That's why we're talking about this shit now.
I mean,
100%.
I was talking to my family, and we had a family Zoom call, and we were just talking shit, whatever. And I literally was just like, everybody, I started microdosing mushrooms, and everyone gets like really uncomfortable because my aunt's like super religious, and she's just like, yeah, I know what mushrooms are. I fucking had sisters that were around in the 60s and 70s. Like, she was like, I know what mushrooms are. It's not weird. And my cousins were blown away because they've only seen my aunt as a very, like, authoritative figure, right?
Right.
My mom's like, I love mushrooms. I used to candy flip back in the day. And I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
But I also didn't realize that she told me this. She gave me a book, and it was talking about how, like, there's a lot of the Aztecs and the Mayans used to call it the flesh of the gods. So there's
Yes.
actual strains of Mexican mushrooms.
Yes.
And I had no idea. So she was like, it's a very cultural thing.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite topics to talk about, is just the variety that exists in psilocybin.
I had no idea.
Yeah, there's there's 5.
Psilocybe Mexicana.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Aztecaporum is another one. All right, and friends, if you're listening to me, please, I'm horrible with the names and the Latin names. Please don't quote me and start hitting me up on IG telling me
This
I got
guy's
it
a
wrong.
dick. He doesn't know.
This
anything.
guy's an asshole.
You know, it's like, and some of them are, and those are the ones that are really interesting, right? Because they are actually giving some homage back to the original name or where it's located, rather than having like weird anecdotal names like penis envy and stuff that. Right, so those varieties, there's over 180 varieties of psilocybe cubensi, right? So, or cubensis, however you want to say it, friends. And that continues to expand. And that's only one of the 5 varieties that contains psychoactive tryptamines. So when we start looking at that, and we start looking at how like cannabis started like being bred and like genetically moved around, oh man, it's coming, guys, because it's a lot faster to do with mushrooms.
Oh, so you think there's going to be different strains of mushrooms starting becoming bred and really
I think we're going to get down to the point of no, and I don't want to say in like the anti like not anti I don't want to say GMO. I want to say there's going to be work that is genetic related and creating variations through natural processes.
Yeah.
And we're going to create different varieties of mushrooms, and it's already happening. It's been happening for years on the underground scene. And once that becomes an actual above ground scene, woo, it's going to be like cannabis testing, like the terps, like the whole thing. It's going to be a whole nother game. I mean, this guy over here is telling me about like all this like, concentrates and stuff that he's like working on and stuff. And I'm going, man, it's coming.
Ugh.
Yeah, and I literally, my friend just goes, hey, I made this. I think it's Russian. I made this for you, my first try. And I was like, great. And then I look at him and I'm like, hey, where can I get this tested? Because I want to know how strong it is. I want to know what's in it. Yeah, it's a fun party trick to look at it or give it to your friends. But like, I want to understand what this is.
Yeah.
And where I take it. Where I put it. What I use it as. Is it a full spectrum extraction sort of thing? Is it, how isolated is it? I have no idea. And every scientist level person goes, I ask them and they go, I don't know, stupid. I don't have it in front of me. I have no idea how you even made it.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's, and I know I'm not the only person out there doing this.
Yeah.
That's the cool part.
Yeah, testing is going to be one of those fun areas, and I just, I'll keep a little tidbit there as a drop that, pay attention to the Instagram feed for all the friends out there, because there's going to be some interesting things happening with me and some of my partners over in the Bay Area revolving around testing. So I'm pretty excited.
Haight Street Shroom Shoppe.
Yeah, Haight Street Shroom Shoppe.
Yeah. I'm from San Jose originally, so it was always I had like a lot of cousins that were just like, "Hey, got some stuff." I'm like, "Oh, whoa, what? All right."
Yeah, man. And it's funny. I get when I dress like this, you know, and I walk up on Haight Street, it's always a funny thing because they see me and they're like, "Hey, guy, how's it going? Hey, you want some shrooms?"
Yeah.
And I kind of hand them my card or a sticker, and they look at me, and I go, "That's cool, bro. I got enough shrooms."
Yeah. Like, yeah. Listen, if I'm wearing this shirt, I think I'm set.
It's so easy to get drugs in San Francisco. You just walk down to like was it Cosmos Pizza? There's always a guy sitting there with a dog, and I would always buck in and be like, "What's up, man?" And I'd see him because I'd always be there with like my ex-wife or girlfriend or whoever I'm with on Haight Street. Just
But it's like a Men in Black situation. The dog starts talking.
But no, there's always it's a different guy. But there's a guy with a dog right there, and I walk through and I go. He goes, "Hey, you know, hey, buy me some pizza." I'm like, "What do you got for me?" And I'm like, "I'll give you $20 too." And they're always just pulling all kinds of shit out of their pockets. I'm like, "I don't want that. I don't want that."
Oh, yeah.
acid. Perfect.
You're gonna bring all the people up to my store now, and I already get enough of those too. Hey, you got some shrooms, man? And just my friends, please know, spores are illegal in California. That's
Stop asking for illegal shit.
Yeah.
People always want that.
Yeah.
So what is the legality? So
okay, great question.
So spores, which is what you use to inoculate. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about that real quick, right? So why is a shroom shop even exist in California? Well, it's because we can't sell spores. So even if you came in to me and asked for stuff, the stuff that I have is legal stuff, legal spores, gourmet spores, wild spores, and then I make all the equipment that revolves around that. Now, let me tell you, that doesn't mean you can't grow whatever you want with the kits, right? That's the key to it, is like figuring those things out. There are 3 states where spores are illegal. It's California, Idaho, and Georgia. And spore itself is within our law written that you can't have spores or live culture of it. However, when you're around in other parts of the country, there spores and live cultures are legal for microscopy, so for scientific research, because a lot of people are doing research, right? So as long as you're working in research world, you know, then you can purchase these things and do research with them.
Fucking science.
Yeah, exactly. You know, what's the difference between science and fucking around?
Yeah,
writing shit down. That's
exactly.
Right? That's the difference, right? You know,
I can just imagine everyone's just like, oh, what? You got to write it down, otherwise it doesn't
ain't
count.
Science. No,
I swear I'm a researcher.
Well, that's why I say I'm a citizen scientist, because I don't write anything down all the time. You know? So, but I do a lot of testing. I have a lot of anecdotal experience, and you know, and that's what I encourage you all to do, is like build your own recipe. Go out there, figure it out for yourself, you know, and get the knowledge base that you can. Learn how to grow your own mushrooms, and when you go through that, you're gonna get some amazing experiences beyond just consuming them.
Yeah, the intention that you see people put into growing mushrooms. I know a guy that he collects, you know, rocks. You know, what are the rocks that glow? I can't remember what they're called.
The rocks that glow,
like
they're bioluminescent rocks. Yeah.
And he's all these special rocks he's collected from all over the world. He has a piece of Stonehenge, rocks from Stonehenge, and he put it in the actual foundation of where he's doing his grow.
Oh wow, that's
just
cool.
To have. And like, think if he put a bunch of other stuff, you know, in the entire building, but it's like, people are going that far to make sure they're grown the right way with the right energy, because it translates. You get a good grower and you get a better high.
I mean, mushrooms are bioremediators. So whatever they're growing on, the things around them, they're absorbing all of that. So if you have any bad energy, any heavy metals in your water, any sulfur, anything like that, they're gonna suck that right up.
It's like cussing around a kid.
And let me.
It's like fucking no time.
Yeah,
sorry,
man.
I
Shh, that's all right. He hangs out with the dirty sailor, and that's me, man. So I can't help it. My wife gives me a hard time about it all the time. So, but you know, the thing that's interesting with that being said, right, that opens up this whole world, right? If a mushroom's bioremediator, right, it's gonna suck stuff up out of its substrate, what it's growing in. Well, what could we put in there?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What could we put in there? I mean, that to me is really interesting. You know, what are they doing with cannabis right now? Now they're messing with the terps,
living
they're
soil,
messing with
all
the
that jazz,
RSO, the live resin, all these things. Wait a minute, you're not going to tell me we can't do that with fucking mushrooms too?
Yeah.
Well, geez, man, this thing is going to open so wide, and everybody right now, all the big dogs out there that are trying to get ready for this, they just want to grow mushrooms. You know, there's going to be a lot more than just growing mushrooms when this all comes down. So. Very, very excited.
Ooh, this
Yeah.
is exciting. What's the most mushrooms you've ever taken? I'm sure you've gotten that question a billion times.
That, Frank, that is a question I do not answer. Let's just
Oh,
say I've
yeah.
taken enough mushrooms, right?
He's been trying to get me to take like a fucking big dose, and I just.
What's a big dose to you?
I mean, the most I've done is 3.5.
All right, well then,
I'll
you're
take
on
it-
your
I'll
way
take
to
it
a
to
big
5.
dose.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Like
I'm trying to go over 20. I need to do the
dude,
podcast.
we'll go to work, man. I'll
Yeah.
help you go to work.
Yeah.
Right? There's work to be done to get there, and
Exactly.
it's doable, right? And that's the thing I want people to understand out there, right? Big doses, whatever the dose is personal, is specific, right? So Frank, if 5 grams to you is a big dose, then that's a fucking big dose, man.
And that is the big dose.
Right, yeah, and let's be honest about it, all right? Because that is a topic that I hear about all the time. It's like everybody is actually trying to knock Terrence back a little bit because they think that Terrence held himself to 5 grams and saying that's the heroic dose. That is not the case. If y'all read deep enough and listen to Terrence, he's done way fucking more than 5 grams in one shot.
It's also like trying to be like,
Right.
it's like the highest dunk's 5 feet. It's like, well,
Right.
until someone else does the next
Exactly.
highest
And so
dunk.
why is the 5 gram threshold there? Because it's a good point for breakthrough for anybody. Okay, friends? So if you're looking for this spiritual thing, that doesn't mean go take 5 grams on your first time. What it means is work yourself up to 5 grams. And if you feel like you're having a good time and you're learning and progressing, then go for it and make sure you're in a safe setting and doing all the stuff that we're all talking about in the space that all the doctors and the medical professionals, yada, yada, yada. Make sure you got your good music. Make sure you got your snuggy blankie. And you have, somebody there that's going to make sure you don't whack your noodle on a sharp corner or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
100%.
really what it is. That's what
Yeah.
a trip sitter is. And the trip sitter versus a guide are two different things. All
Yeah.
right. And let's put that out there too. Trip sitting is a great profession, but you ain't a guide. All right. You aren't a medical professional. It is not your job to try and bring somebody to the light or personal
Or
progression.
program them with
Yeah.
your bullshit. Just give them the stuff and
Shut up, right?
My
Sit in the background.
my best friend Hormoz Rashidi, he's a comic. We were a door guy at the comedy store together. He's one of my favorite people to do mushrooms with because he's always very much that like sitter in a sense. He's not like trying to guide or anything. But like anytime I'd be like trip out too hard, he'd be the guy to be like, "Hey man," just kind of grab my shoulders and just put me right
Put
here.
you
And be
in
like,
the
"Hey, you're
spot.
good." And
Yeah,
I'm like,
you're good.
"Oh, okay, cool." Yeah.
I always make the joke. It's like, if you're gonna guide, you're gonna sit, and please, follow the protocols and stuff like that. But a lot of times you get someone who's more experienced that's helping somebody that's less experienced, and they drive in, and that's where things happen, right?
Yeah.
You hear the stories about homeboy jumping over the fire because the fire called him in, and he ended up, burning himself because other homeboy was over there in his own journey, not paying attention. So.
Yeah.
So, the point is that, know your medicine, know where you're working, know who you're working with, and make sure you trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then the big thing I always say is, if like Ian's saying, just shut up. And if they ask you a question, and the question is always like, is this how it's supposed to be? And your answer is purely, yes, it is.
Mhm.
That's all you got to say.
That's so funny
That's
because
all you have to say.
that brings up like I was tripping at
literally nothing else.
Yeah, nothing else.
that makes so much sense because I do that joke about tripping at that Italian restaurant, right? And I talk about how like there's like I did too many microdoses and it just turned into a big dose.
Yes.
And then like I'm in an Italian restaurant, I'm tripping really really hard, and I like start to like kind of like freak out a little bit, and I like reach out to my wife who's not tripping, and I'm like, do you hear this? I was like, I hear a loud ringing in my ear. Do you hear that? And she looks at me and she goes, "Isn't that just the sound of the universe?" And then I just fucking black out. I was just like, "Whoa!" yeah. But she didn't realize how hard I was tripping, so that small thing was
Oh
just
my
like the
gosh.
thing that just let
The
like
catalyst.
yeah, it just set me off.
The breakthrough moment,
yeah,
right?
it was hysterical.
Oh man, I have a couple good ones of those too. But like going and celebrating and thinking, oh, I'm gonna take some acid and like go walk around and be all super happy. And we sit down in a town. You spurred this one up because I was in a pizza joint, and I remember we ordered the pizza. I went to the bathroom. I came back. The pizza came. I looked at the pizza. I looked at my wife and I said, I'm sorry. I need to leave. This pizza is not, I can't, me and this pizza, not here, not right now. Can we please take, and of course the waitress comes back over and my wife's like, can we get this to go? And they just put the pizza down on the table and they're looking at us like crazy.
What?
And I'm like wide-eyed.
Yeah,
like,
you're like,
we need to go.
yeah. It was funny because she like looks at me and I'm like sweating and she's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I had to fight some demons, but she was like, "Do we need to leave?" I was like, "No, I think we're good." I was like, "I think I'm better now."
That was the spaghetti look.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
It was
Oh,
because the server came up and he had asked me. He was like, "What do you want to order?" And I just wasn't ready to answer that. So I, like, unsure of myself, was just like, "I'll take the spaghetti." And then the whole time I'm eating the spaghetti, I'm just like, "You didn't really want this. You're a fake. You're a fake." And it was just so funny.
Oh man, the teacher will always tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is so much fun. Oh my God, this
yeah,
is,
man,
yeah.
I appreciate you guys. This is
thank you for coming.
badass.
Dude, thank you so much. What are we at? Are we almost? I just want to make sure I'm not.
At 35 minutes.
Oh, perfect. So how much more time do we have?
If you have 5 minutes.
Perfect. Sweet. We'll just wrap it up then.
Yeah, man, hit me up with whatever you want. Go ahead.
Dude, thank you. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to?
Yeah,
shout out?
my shop obviously up in San Francisco, the Haight Street Shroom Shoppe. Follow along on Instagram. Feel free to reach out. I also do a lot of talks on Clubhouse revolving around different types of topics. One called Psychedelic Coffee Shop. Parenting and psychedelics is another one that I'm working on.
That's something I've been
Nice.
teaching too, and it's
Yeah.
big for people.
It is. Just talking about being a parent and how to build space to use psychedelics within the responsibilities that you have to have as a parent. You know,
Yeah.
And all of us right now going through
And that
COVID.
doesn't mean taking psychedelics and sitting with your kid, people.
No,
It means
thank you, Ian.
taking psychedelics and then becoming a better person
right.
will in turn make you a better parent with a focus on parenting.
Yes, thank you, man. I appreciate
Oh, that's
that
interesting.
so much.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, because like especially with microdosing, you can time it easily.
Let
so
me
it's
tell you,
like-
I wish my mom did a lot more mushrooms when she was raising me.
Well, I always wonder what my son thinks when he's looking at me, and I'm like, hey, come on, we're gonna get in the car and drive 2 hours and go hunt mushrooms. I really wonder what is going on in his little brain. Like, okay, Dad.
He's
yeah,
like, he's like, I'm gonna be fucking cool as shit in college.
Well, what happens sometimes is he'll go like, "Oh, Dad, I don't want to go," and I'll be like, "Come on, man, well, it'll be fun." And once he gets out there, like the smiles can't stop.
Yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
He's got his
A
basket.
kid outdoors, dude. It's
I mean,
Shit, yeah, it's the bomb. It's
yeah,
the bomb.
dude.
So Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media crap, feel free to reach out if you want to learn how to grow your own mushrooms. That's what I'm here for, friends. Consider myself the Michael MacGyver. I'll teach you how to grow mushrooms with a roll of duct tape, a plastic bin, and some cotton. We'll make it happen.
Hell
baby.
yeah, man! I definitely want to have you back on this podcast because this was. I feel like we barely scratched the surface. I want to talk to you so much more. This is so much great.
Well, you guys should come up to the shop.
I mean,
do the
yeah.
podcast in the shop.
Yeah.
The shop is a fun place, and I'll come and hook you guys up.
Sherry, you gonna come with us?
Sure.
Perfect.
Come up to the
There we
city,
go.
man.
All right.
I got to get out of law every once.
We'll
in
do
a
our West
while.
Coast tour soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great.
I appreciate you guys.
dude,
so
thank you so much.
Yeah.
My name's Frank Castillo. This is Ian.
I'm
Thank
Ian.
you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Much love.